Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review of The Strain. This week we've seen Season 2, Episode 7, entitled The Born. And, that was a very good episode. Wow. One of my favorites of the season, no question about it. Could very well be my favorite episode of the season so far, actually. And, I have to say, I did my review of Fear the Walking Dead. Just look at my videos if you want to see that. Which was decent, by the way. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was okay. But this really brought me back. I enjoyed this much more than Fear the Walking Dead tonight. I'll just say it. And this felt like it had like the feel of almost like a mid-season finale type of episode. I could very well see them cutting off right here, like for a little break or something if it was The Walking Dead. But no, it's coming back next week, and this probably had to be one of the biggest episodes of the season too. And we just had quite a bit going on. Of course, we had Ephraim, we had a little love triangle developing, which we'll get to in a few minutes, and the opening to this episode, that had to be one of my favorite openings on the show. Probably my favorite opening on the show so far, really. And we really get introduced, we get a little bit better of an understanding of the Mr. Quinlan character, who has been hyped up for quite a while now, and he just made his first appearance. I think it was at the end of episode 5, I want to say. Oh, excuse me. And it's nearing 12:30 here, okay? But, we get like a really good flashback sequence. It's flashback scene, I should say. It lasted about 8 minutes at least, and definitely better than that Silver Angel opening we got back in, I think it was episode 4 or something like that. I don't really remember. But you guys know what I'm talking about, the Luchador movie and things like that. But anyway, we got further understanding of Mr. Quinlan here. And, you see him, he's fighting in the Coliseum, he's like this hybrid, type, The Born, of course, actually refers to Mr. Quinlan. And he is the Master's son. We'll just say that. We don't know everything about the details of that yet, or how that exactly happened, but I'm sure we'll come to know as the series goes along. And we see Mr. Quinlan fighting in the Coliseum. He's obviously a very, very skilled warrior. He's also the one who trained Vaughn's group, the ones who were killed and not trapped by Eldridge Palmer back in episode 3 or 4, I think. And I'm still kind of a little bit pissed that they kill off Vaughn like that, but Mr. Quinlan seems to be filling in that hole and then some. So I'm very excited about his character. I just do miss Vaughn, though. I wish they would have just turned him into Mr. Quinlan, but I do like this Mr. Quinlan. He's definitely a big new intrigue on the show for sure. And I love the sequence we've seen of him, fighting in the Coliseum. Just some very good action, and just some really nice visuals too, for the most part. So I really like that. And also, I mentioned a love triangle in this episode, and that's because Fett and Dutch go out and they end up finding, I forget her name actually, but the lady who Dutch was involved with back in season 1 at the convenience store. Her roommate, also her girlfriend pretty much, and who had stolen all that money from her. We still don't know what she did with that money. We'll probably find that out pretty shortly. And she managed to escape and run off only because the Master didn't send all the Strigoi after her. He just wanted to keep the Strigoi focused on of course Setrakian and his people. But so we ran into her again, and definitely seems like Dutch still has some feelings for her. She's just trying to comfort her, and we see Fett. He's actually seeming very, very jealous of this, which is kind of understandable considering, just a little while ago they were sleeping together. So I can see that Fett actually feels, a bit more than just a person in bed towards Dutch. So I can definitely understand where he's coming from with that. But luckily for him, I don't see Dutch's former lover lasting too long on the show. I definitely don't see her making out of the season. I'd be very surprised if she did. I mean, I'm already worried about Dutch herself a little bit this season, so that may disrupt the whole thing if something happens to her. Yeah, if something doesn't happen to Dutch, though, I kind of like her. I like her more than Nora, actually. But, yeah. Then we see Setrakian and Fett, before we get to that, though, Eph comes home as well. And, well, home, okay. But, he's just been drinking left and right over what happened in the last episode, which is a very good one as well. And, we see him, pouring alcohol into the bullet wound and things like that. And, yeah, he comes home and, yeah. And we get a scene between him and his son, between him and Zach, of course, and I don't know, I guess I'm getting a little bit more used to Max Charles in the role, but he's still not turning any heads, that's for sure, with his acting. But, he's getting a little bit more tolerable, I think, even though he's definitely still the weakest part of the show, acting-wise. But, Zach tells Ephraim, not to make promises anymore, because there's always going to be a time when he feels like he has to break them and things like that, which is understandable where he's coming from on that. But once again, the way they act, the way they write it, and the way Max Charles portrays Zach makes it sound like really arrogant and annoying, so it's a little bit, but, it's not too bad anymore, I don't think. But I should knock on wood or something, right? But anyway. So Setrakian and Fett go out, and they actually end up running into Mr. Quinlan in a very epic way. We see, we actually at first get a pretty cool tease to an action sequence of, Fett and Setrakian battling the spider monkey vampire children. But, of course, by that I mean the children that Kelly has, of course, taken under her wing, who were the blind children we had seen in a previous episode this season that were turned, the more athletic and actually, probably more dangerous than irregular Strigoi, too. We see that Fett is able to hit one of them, but they're obviously very agile, much quicker than your normal Strigoi, so it seems like, it wasn't really looking very good for them at that time. And then we see Mr. Quinlan arrive. We see Mr. Quinlan arrive, and yeah, he just owns that child. Okay, that sounds a little weird. But anyway, Mr. Quinlan quickly dispatches one of them, or a couple of them actually, I think he killed. And just the way he moves is just very, very cool to watch, and the way he fights is just a very unique thing on this show. I'm really enjoying watching the character. And, he quickly explains that, he knows who Setrakian is, because he was sent by the Ancients. And, he recognizes Setrakian as, of course, apparently the only mortal to actually wound the Master and, force, him to transfer his body, his essence into another body. So, Mr. Quinlan at least does have that respect for, Abraham at this point. And Fett, is completely unaware of this whole ancient thing that was going on, so he's just holding the gun up at Quinlan, and Quinlan says if he discharges that weapon in his direction, he will tear him in two or tear him apart or something like that. Definitely don't want to see Fett die, but I'm definitely hyped on Mr. Quinlan's character right now. And Quinlan also tells the two of them that the Master is actually in that building. And so Setrakian, sends Fett, to plant bombs so they can bring part of the building down on the Master potentially. And then we see, of course, not Fett, but Setrakian and Quinlan go off and try to find him. And we get a very, very good confrontation between Mr. Quinlan and the Master. Of course, the Master being in the new body, Bolivar. And, of course, it's completely the Master now, just the appearance of what Bolivar looked like as a vampire. And, yeah, I do miss the size of the Master's old body, because that was pretty intimidating and really added to his presence as a character. But at the same time, I really do like the design of, the Bolivar vampire, so I'm I think I'm fine with the Master being in that body with that design. I think he still looks very creepy, even if he is like a more regular size now. So I do like that. And I know a lot of people have complained about, the look of the Master in his old body, so this is probably an improvement for most of the fans out there, I think. So, yeah. But, I didn't really mind it too much, but I think the face on this one's a little bit scarier, even if the size is a little bit regulated. So, yeah. So there's that, and, yeah, the confrontation is definitely the highlight of the episode. We get a little bit of a background. Mr. Quinlan just, says what he's here to do. He's here to destroy him, and, and the Master acknowledges, what a fine-looking team they make, and I-Course is also there as well. And, I was wondering if, maybe Quinlan would quickly, just annihilate I-Course or something like that, which we may see eventually. But, no, I'd rather not let that happen. Actually, I'd rather Setrakian be the one to kill I-Course, so I'm still hoping for that, because I think I'd fit the most, no question. But still, and we hear the Master say to Quinlan that he's going to make him scream the same way he made his mother. And so, yeah, that implies apparently, the Master had killed, his lover that he had birthed Quinlan with, and that just brings up a lot. So I'm very, very eager to hear more about, their history together, the details of it all and things like that. But Quinlan is definitely the most interesting character on the show at this point. Definitely, because he's new, we don't know that much about him yet if you haven't read the books. But, yeah, so definitely my favorite 4 characters on the show now are, Ephraim, Setrakian, Quinlan, and Fett. No question about it. Then right behind that you have, Dutch and stuff. And I like Dutch more than Nora, as I said earlier. But anyway, we could do a whole video talking about my favorite straying characters sometime. But I should probably wait until a little bit further in the series, I think. But, yeah, and, Fett does set the bombs off. It was also kind of comical when he ran past security, and he said there's a bomb threat from him. He just keeps running. But, yeah. He sets off the bombs, and it brings down some rubble, but it's like the most inconvenient place possible, man. Right after the Master, taunted Quinlan about his mother, it wasn't a your mom joke or anything. I just explained that too, but, Quinlan is charging at the Master. He's ready right then there to fight him, and then that rubble comes down in between them. It's like it was very convenient for the rubble to, just fall apart like that. Right in that specific spot, but yeah, it wasn't going to happen there anyway. So that was very good as well, even if, we just got a tease of it there. It definitely got you, excited, unlike Fear the Walking Dead. But anyway, and then, we see that Quinlan also blames Setrakian and his group for costing him his chance to end it right then and there, which you can understand, but I'm sure they'll be crossing paths later. That should be interesting. And, he also tells Setrakian to stay out of it from now on, he'll take over from here. But, Setrakian's not going to stop. So, yeah. Also, we got some scenes with Palmer and Coco, I think her name is Miss Marchand, or I don't know how to pronounce her last name. But, of course, his secretary, and they definitely have a step forward in their relationship. They finally embrace and kiss after, of course, some drinking and a nice spin out, on a helicopter over the city. So, yeah, you knew that was coming, and I know they've been saying that this is meant to add, a different side to the Palmer character. Perhaps more of a sympathetic, a softer side, I guess. Is it working? Kinda, sorta. I appreciate what they're trying to do with that, but it's just not, very interesting to me right now. And I think it's definitely might fall apart when Coco becomes aware of, what the reality of what he is doing is really going on. I think she'll probably be caught in the crossfire at some point. She'll be killed at some point in the season, if not season 3. But yeah, so I definitely don't see her as long-term character either, really. But yeah, and also, Fett, at the end of the episode, Fett is pretty upset about the whole, Dutch and her roommate returning thing, and him and F sort of butt heads They kind of go after each other a little bit. Luckily, Fett doesn't deck Eph right then and there, so there's that. And Eph actually does go to the bar where they're drinking earlier. Oh, they weren't drinking there earlier, what am I saying? But Eph goes, and sits beside Fett, and they basically kind of find a common ground again, which I thought was pretty good. And, Eph just basically lays out his plan now. It's just to kill Eldridge Palmer, because after, he's behind the whole, killing his friend thing and, messing up the whole operation he's trying to get going in Washington, D.C. So, yeah. That's all I really have to say about the show for tonight. The previews for next week look really good, too. We see that maybe I-Course is actually putting on that face makeup on Kelly like he does to make himself look normal. So maybe she'll be able to look like she used to, and in the previews it looks like she might show up at the doorstep to really, really confuse Zach. So that should be very, very intense and interesting and creepy. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, so that's really my thoughts on the episode. Very good, probably one of, if not the best of the season so far. I definitely had a lot of fun with it tonight. Very intriguing, very interesting, Mr. Quinlan. And yeah, definitely happy with that tonight, unlike Fear the Walking Dead. I did like Fear the Walking Dead, but it just didn't excite me really, and the strain still does. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's anything I didn't mention or something you want me to elaborate on, feel free to leave a comment below. Would love to discuss with you guys. And I forgot to say this in my last video, but add me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, Movie Pilot, and look for me on SpoiledDead.com. Catch you guys next time, and peace.